evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Richard McGibbon. I'm a Senior Development Manager at Berkeley. I'd first just like to say my views are of my own, and they're not necessarily of the Berkeley Group. I'd just like to state that, so I don't get any trouble. What I'd like to do is move from how I've got into the energy dilemma and what I see the issues being. Firstly, where I'm going to focus on is it's domestic hot water. And I think where the issue has come from is all of this is all of the domestic oil problems we have tend to relate back to planning. If you go back in time, in a project I worked on in 2003, it was all electric led. So that was straightforward. We knew what to do. We knew what to price. It was easy for the customer. They knew what they were getting. It was only when policy changed with the GLA that they brought in heat networks. And first of all, I'm neutral on the subject. I don't really mind whether it's a heat network or not. What I really care about is the end user, the customer, because when you try to introduce technologies that don't work, the cost ends up at the end user. And as a business, that's always where you get affected. So if you've got higher outgoings, that's going to affect your sales prices. Now, from my perspective, I'm very delivery-led. So because as a residential developer would, or any developer, our business is to build homes or to sell commercial buildings. It's not to try and become carbon neutral. However, because of the political climate and our own business ethics, we now have a policy in place for a commitment to transition to zero by 2030. And so as part of our corporate social sustainability, we are now moving towards that kind of that target. So as a result of that, we are now conscious. But what I want to then just come back to is the reason that I've ended up here, and we're using Bureau Happold to advise us on how we achieve net zero carbon, is we've acquired a site. The project I worked on is in Southall, and it's 88 acres. And in 2010, we had the planning permission was for gas-fired CHP. Now, at the time, that was absolutely fine. It was in policy. As we've moved on and we've acquired the site and we've brought the first phase forward, and then coming towards the second phase, policy has changed from previously of heat networks with gas-fired CHP with backup boilers to a SAP10, which is now promoting the potential use of the items like air source heat pumps, which you're all probably familiar with. And we've now had a dilemma because how do these systems work? So I suppose to sum up where I've then got to with this is what is the answer, and should it be planning led? And so I agree with the view of heat networks, but should they be put on the developer, or did the GLA go the wrong way about it? And should it possibly been put towards promoting it through ESCOs and saying, ESCOs, you go off, you go and connect these heat networks, and when developers come along as we supply planning permissions, you're connecting up to them. And from a developer perspective, all we're given is carbon targets. So if you achieve that, you take the onus on us to become effectively an energy provider, because we take a lot of responsibility front end in terms of having the energy centre on site. How do we move that away? Items, for example, like appliances or how we build in terms of carbon and electric car charging are things we can take responsibility for. But I think my personal view is that when we're looking at carbon, it's very hard for us to become experts and then try and drive the market. So I think this is where I'm now coming to, is how do you drive the market? What is the best route? And is it through house builders? I don't think that's probably the best solution. And being a surveyor and being quite practical about it, we'd always consult an engineer. Why not take a slightly different view? The GLA have the powers to go and grant the opportunities to ESCOs or to energy providers to then provide that heat, and then we receive it just like another technology, another utility. So, and then all we do is we come out of it from being the middleman, and at front end, our carbon targets are agreed, and as a result of that, we can simplify our processes. It makes our roles a lot easier, and I think the market knows where it stands. So I suppose my final point on this would be, how do we then get to low carbon heat? And I don't think a residential developer is going to solve that problem. I think it's going to be engineers and those that have businesses that is their forte. So that's my view on the subject. I'm really interested to know what questions are going to come through later on, because I'm happy to answer anything that's, what does a developer think about your angle? So thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.